But yeah, we'll get started. So what I want to go through in the kind of first 30 minutes is really just a fundamental, like, big picture outlook on how I see Facebook ads and funnels and how they work together, just to lay the land for the next 2 days. So a little about me, my kind of intro is we probably generate about $250 million a year in revenue for our clients. So we have a lot of big clients, you know, doing 8, 9 figures, and then we have smaller clients around the 5, 10 million mark. I run 2 agencies, my own one, and then one with an influencer, a guy called Ty Lopez, some of you might know. I run a lot of his personal brand stuff as well. And we spend millions a month on Facebook and Google, mainly Facebook. But what kind of makes our agency more unique and why I'm doing funnels and ads is we don't do ads only. Like, we only take clients on if we're doing the copy, we're doing the funnels, we're doing the build out, we're doing the strategy. Because for a long time I tried to just do ads only, and I realized most people's funnels weren't how they needed to be to convert, so it was kind of backwards. And then my background is I scaled 2 health and fitness businesses to multiple 7 figures. Myself, I was spending 10 to 20 grand a day in ad spend for my own offers. I had supplements and ebooks, and I just learned it myself and built a big team, marketing team to support that. Like I said, now we have a full agency, about 35 staff members in my main agency, where we're doing all the funnels, the CRO, and the cool thing is, you know, we're generating millions a month, so I get to really see, like, all the data. I get to see what's working, what's not working, different upsell flows, everything like that. And, you know, we're really good at taking clients from, like, $1 million or $2 million is kind of the start point when they've got traction and they've got a brand, and scaling to 8 figures plus. We have some 8 figures going to 9. So today we'll cover fundamentals of, like, funnels and online sales. And like I said, a lot of people I speak to and I meet and a lot of clients we work with, you know, Facebook ads is like the hot thing, right? It's like, oh, I want to run ads. But a lot of the time, if the funnel's not perfect and dialed in, the ads don't work. So we'll spend time going through different funnels. I'll show you some example funnels in our agency that are doing $1 million plus. I'll show you some ads that are doing, you know, contributing to doing millions of dollars a year just from a couple of single ads. So you'll see different creatives, different ideas of funnel flows, upsells, advertorials, quiz funnels, opt-in funnels, cart pages, everything like that. We'll take a break a little and actually do an avatar worksheet. So for some of you, this will just be kind of really nailing down what you already know, but it's maybe not condensed. For some of you, this will be a new exercise where we'll basically write down for 20 minutes exactly who your avatar is. And even if you're, you know, I work with brands, like, I work with a lot of big marketers, right, that are already 8 figures plus and they're super smart marketers, but a lot of the time they kind of know who their avatar is, but their organization doesn't. So what I wanted to do is actually put it into paper, and then you can send it to your whole team because it's going to be super valuable for your team. Probably not so much you because you know subconsciously, right? But for your team, they probably don't. And I'll talk more about that. Like I said, funnel optimization, looking at different cart pages, upsells. You know, this last year, 2019, for example, we've took a lot of clients. You know, we've gone from, for example, they came to us doing 2-3 million a year, and we've took them quickly towards 8 figures or some 10 million in a year, just because they have a really strong brand. They're making a couple of million a year, but their funnels, their ads are terrible. So small changes to upsell flows, cart pages, sales pages, and then running ads can really take brands that have got kind of the established brand side. It can grow them really fast. Compliance. So Facebook compliance is really big. I've spoke a few times last year on compliance. You know, we're lucky that, you know, we spend a lot of money. We have good Facebook reps that we directly work with that help on compliance. And yeah, I've kind of learned a lot just through the years. You know, I do a lot in the health space, make money online, finance space, supplement space. So they're some of the more risky compliance side. And then AOV and LTV. So, you know, the biggest thing I've learned in the last year or two is Facebook ads are always going to increase. There's always going to be more competition. And the only way you can counteract that is improving your AOV and LTV. So with a lot of our clients, we become, especially e-com or info, we become very obsessed in helping increase AOV and LTV, because the ad cost is never going to go, it's not necessarily going to come down, it's always going to grow. Any platform you move to, you'll have newer startups, which are cheap, and then it'll get more expensive. But ultimately, if you have a high AOV, so average order value, and then a high LTV, you can outbid everyone. So it doesn't matter if Facebook gets more expensive. It doesn't matter if you have a competitor, because if you can pay $100 a sale and they can only pay $50, you can just outbid them all day and win in that kind of industry. So what everyone needs in like an online ecosystem. So the way I see it, so these are some of the things I'm going to go through now in detail, but I think everyone needs content. So you need a lot of content, and then you need a way to ascend the customer, okay? And a lot of people are missing some of these stages, and some businesses can function where they go content to high ticket, but for the most part, having content, some lower ticket offers, or medium ticket offers and then high ticket is really important. A lot of people might be the other way around. They do tons of content, but they haven't got their offers dialed in, so they can't monetize that content, they can't scale that content. I know there's a couple of you in this room that have focused on content for 10 or 20 years, and now you're behind on the selling side. Now, the good news for you is you've built an amazing brand, and it's easier to go that way, but most of the time, like, always look at your business and where do you fall in those 4 sectors. And then strong front end and a branding approach. So 2 years ago, you could get away with like really hardcore sales pages, running ads to them, making tons of money without a brand. The more, like in 2019, I saw way more of bigger brands doing better. Even within my own agency, I work with a lot of like high-level direct response marketers, like some of the smartest guys in the world at marketing, and they use me to help just build their funnels and run their ads because they're so busy. They don't necessarily need me for the strategy side because they're super smart, although they still use it. But the point is those really smart guys are getting beat by the brands now, okay? And this is the first time I've seen this for years. The direct response marketers would always beat the brands. But now, Facebook, and I think customers in general, rely more on brands, right? Because 2 years ago, we'd see ads, we'd click on them and buy. Whereas now, if anyone, like if your friends and family that don't know this space, they will hate Facebook ads. They will know what Facebook ads is, and they know, like, they get what an upsell is a lot of the time now, right? Whereas 2-3 years ago, they didn't. So having a brand and a really strong kind of content approach is not only important for Facebook compliance, but it's also important for you just to scale the business. A big part too is like a strong follow-up sequence. So I think a lot of us spend a lot of time on the ads and the funnels, right? But then we forget what comes behind it, behind closed doors. So nurturing your current customers, your email list. You know, we get some clients 1,000 emails a day, but that would be pointless if those 1,000 emails every day aren't like nurtured correctly. They don't have strong follow-up sequences, messenger bot sequences, strong content. And that needs to be consistent through like what I would class as the 4 tiers, right? Content, low ticket, medium ticket, high ticket. If you don't have that consistency, it might be really strong on like the content side and the low side, but then they don't really hear from you again once they've like bought a low ticket, and then a year later you're like trying to push them the high ticket and they're like, I don't even know who you are anymore. So having that consistency is really important. So like, and that kind of links to the second point. So strong middle of funnel approach, even on the ad side, right? So I talked about email and messenger and how that needs to be consistent through those tiers. But actually on the ad side too, again, like who here is running ads to buyers? Like if you have buyers lists, who runs ads to them? Okay, so half of you probably. How many of you that put your hand up consistently runs a lot of content and free stuff on ads to that buyers list? Only a couple of us, right? So it's very easy to just run like purchase ads to that like buyers list or your warm list, your email list, for example. We all do it. But what we're trying to do more with clients now is also run content, right? So you can run, and it's super cheap. You can $10 a day, run a couple of blog posts, $10 a day, run a couple of testimonials that they just see all the time because it keeps them top of mind. And now they're going to open your emails more, so you get a higher open rate. Now they're going to check your messenger more, and then half a year later, if you have a mastermind or a high ticket offer, they're much more likely to convert as well, right? So a strong tech department, it doesn't matter if you use an agency or you have in-house. Biggest thing I've probably saw in like 6-7 years is tech and design, like even really good tech guys, really good designers, they don't get conversions, okay? And it's like really hard to beat into them how to build a page that converts. And we had to train our guys in-house for like months, and they're still learning all the time how to build pages that convert, okay? And that's like a big thing I see is you might go pay 10 grand for a copywriter to write the copy. You've got like world-class copy, but now you build it and it's a 5-second speed load. It doesn't look good on mobile. You have a 3-stage cart series. You don't have upsells firing properly. You're not tagging the emails and following them up properly. So all tech and design related issues, which basically writes that 10 grand sales letter irrelevant, right? Whereas that sales letter could make you 5 million if all the back end was set up correctly, if it was loading at 2 seconds, if they were using plugins to maximize conversions, if they had a one-page checkout, a really strong follow-up sequence, if all the pixels were placed on every page to do retargeting drips, right? So there's a lot that goes in the tech and design that most people don't think of. They're so focused on the front end, and they're maybe focused on copy, which you should be. Copy is like the most invaluable skill for scaling online. But then if the funnel doesn't match the copy, it's kind of pointless, right? And then, like I just mentioned, you need a strong upsell. Design and video content, same thing applies, right? You could have an amazing funnel, but then if you don't have any good video ads on Facebook, some companies we work with, the only way we're scaling to 10, 20 grand a day on Facebook is through video ads, okay? So a lot of the graphic ads, they just can't hit the CPA for whatever reason. The video indoctrinates them better. And if we didn't have, like we have an in-house video team, we storyboard the videos with our copywriters, and if we didn't have that, those clients wouldn't exist for us anymore, right? They'd drop off eventually, or they wouldn't even convert. And so if you're running ads for clients as an agency or in-house, and you're not doing videos every couple of weeks for them, and they're not crafted by copywriters, and they're built to convert, maybe your clients aren't getting results they should be because of that, or maybe your business isn't getting the results they should be. And again, it's about teaching the designers and the video team how to make those videos or graphics to convert. And that's why we have the copywriters, and our marketing team actually work with the video team and script it all out. So as mentioned, upsells and checkout, especially if you're like e-com or lower ticket, the difference between you scaling to 10 grand a day and not scaling is upsells and checkouts for a lot of people, because we work with tons of e-com brands, and basically we don't really let them go live unless the checkout and upsell flow is optimized, because the CPA on Facebook's always getting higher and higher, so cost per acquisition, cost per sale, and if the upsell and checkout process isn't dialed in, we're leaving most of the net profit on the table, right? So to give you an example, say you're selling a supplement bundle and the average sale cost is $100, right? You might be paying $96 on Facebook as your average CPA now. 2 years ago, you'd pay $50 and you'd be happy and scale all day. Now, you might be paying $90 or $100. And all your net profit then comes from the upsells and checkout, like order bumps and optimizing the checkout. And if you don't have that, you're now like not making any money. Whereas if you dialed in your upsells and now your AOV or average sale was like $150, now you're making $50 profit per order, right? And if you do 400 orders a day, that's the difference in like millions of dollars of business over a year. And then, obviously a media buyer, it goes without saying, but a lot of the media buyers, so what I've learned running agencies, and like we hire obviously in-house media buyers, and I've probably interviewed 500 media buyers in the last few years. The biggest thing I've learned, and the biggest breakdown, and you guys have to understand this, is by definition a media buyer, most of them, the non-entrepreneurial ones, most media buyers are like data guys, right? They're technical, they're data guys, they're in an ad manager, they're looking at numbers and statistics all day, and they're doing technical setup. Now that's the complete opposite to what you want as a creative person, right? So you need creative people can think of different hooks, different audiences, different ways to spin an ad, different ways to scale an ad, And sadly, it's very rare, just like if you look at how people's brains work, it's very rare to find a data techie guy that's super creative and markety, right? So there's some, they exist, but most of those guys are entrepreneurs running the agency or running the business, right? So what we found is basically all our media buyers now, they don't do much of the strategy, they don't do much of the creative, they don't do any of the creative. All of that comes from our marketing and copy team and video and design team. And the media buyers, all they do is the technical setup and technical scale of the ad account. And for a long time, I pulled my hair out trying to find a guy that can do both, but just fundamentally, those people, personality types, rarely exist. So if you're trying to scale your account, if you're hiring an in-house team, or you're hiring an agency, that's one thing you've really got to address, is look at, like, is that media buyer really creative and really data-driven and technical? If so, they're a unicorn. Most of the time, they're not. So which one are they? And if they're really technical, which most of them are, like, how are you going to pair them with someone super creative to help with copy? Because our media buyers are not the best copywriters. We've tested it a lot, right? So we don't have them do copy anymore. And it's fine. It's just their skill set. You don't have, you know, a basketball player that's also running marathons. That's just not how it works. Body type's different, genetics are different, muscle fibers are different. So what you're trying to do when you hire a media buyer to do everything is you're trying to make a basketball player compete in the Olympics for marathon running. It's just not going to work. So just think about that and try and pair them better. And like I say, there are outliers, you'll find guys, but they're your unicorns, right? Most of the time you need to pair them and you'll get better results. So here's I'll go through in a little more depth those points now. So how I see the anatomy of an online ecosystem. So we have content, lower ticket. So content, you should be running blogs, videos to your audience, running them on Facebook. Doesn't need to be a big budget, maybe 10%, 20% max of total budget, right? And you're not going to make much money from it, so that's why it's red. Low ticket, similar, you're selling low ticket offers, so that could be ebooks, that could be e-com products, courses, 7-day challenges, whatever it might be for your industry. And like I said, not every industry falls into this, but most do. And again, you're probably not going to make a ton of money from that, okay? After ad spend and operational costs, 2 years ago, I made millions from low ticket only, but that doesn't happen these days, so don't try and make, you can, there's still rare cases where you make a lot of money, but, just see it as a progression in your pipeline, right? And then most of your money comes from the medium and high ticket, so that's where you're selling maybe $500 offers, $1,000 offers, $2,000, and then high ticket could be, $20,000 masterminds, right? Or they might be a customer LTV where they're on a $1,000 a month SaaS or agency plan, but over 5 months they're making you 20, 30K, right? And that's where most of your net profit comes. So trying to understand that, and if the business or maybe the client's business falls into this, trying to build it out for them so they have that ecosystem. And then also, I guess, setting expectations so they understand that they're not going to make tons of money from low ticket maybe, because sometimes they think they can because they see other people, but really they just see other people showing how much money they've got in Stripe or how much they're spending on ads, or the ads are always running. So they assume all the money is from low ticket, but maybe they make all their money from high ticket, you just don't see that, okay? So, like I said, it only needs to be 10% of budget, and it can include, so that front-end content can be blogs, content videos, advertorials, which kind of function as content, but also sales, Instagram, Facebook posts, and even just boosting those posts. So one thing we've started with our clients recently is trying to get them to post content every 5-7 times a week on Facebook and then actually start boosting it. And we have one client that's super consistent, a big supplement brand, and we boost those posts, and some of those posts get a 3 or 4 times ROAS, right? Just boosting a post that their social teams made because it looks more like content, right? And what it also does is it really helps support the Facebook algorithm. So the Facebook algorithm is looking more and more at what's happening on the page and the page engagement, and that will impact your CPAs. So if you're just trying to run direct to offer all the time and you're not doing content and boosting it and keeping the page engaged, it's actually going to hurt your CPAs. And then lives. So lives, lives were really big a few years ago, but they've remained really popular. So if you have a brand or a face of the brand, running Facebook Lives and then putting $10 behind them is again going to help the algorithm. It's going to help warm up the audience. And we've had lives that we've ran and spent $200,000 on because they link back to a page at the end, like a sales page, and they actually convert and make us profit. And now they have reached 5 million people as well, which we can retarget as an audience. And then live events, if some of you are more in the live event space, hosting a lot of live events is still a form of content, right? Obviously, the idea is you're monetizing those too. But, smaller workshops are becoming popular, like one-day free or $99 workshops, where they're sending them into a 5 or 10K offer. Like I said, so strong email and messenger series. And again, a lot of us fall victim to we're really good at the 3 or 5 or 7 email follow-up when someone opts in or buys, right? Who's got that dialed in? Most of us. Now, who of us has it dialed in for every stage of the funnel, every user journey, even if users have been with us for 90 days plus? A lot less of us, right? A lot of us really focus on the front end. So just spending the time to nurture those. And, if you're spending money to acquire the customer, or if you're spending money to make sales on the ad side or to grow the list, if you're doing affiliates to grow the list, it's kind of silly not to be monetizing it and nurturing it over a year versus 30 or 60 days. And you can do that with, content drips, posting blogs or email them, just updates. Email newsletters are really popular, like weekly newsletters. We used to do tons of that. Now no one does it. And I think at the last War Room event, Ryan Dicey even spoke about adding weekly newsletters back into your business and how the big brands are still doing it. Promos, obviously, dripping promos in every, couple of weeks or every month. Really trying to stay in the inbox. And, there's a lot that goes into how to stay inbox. But one of the big things is open rates and response rate and engagement, right? So if you're sending great content and people are replying, opening it, and engaging with it, that's going to help you stay in the inbox when you do your big promos. And then case studies results. So they're kind of half content, half sales, but every week or two try and drip in a couple of case studies, drip in a couple of results, but do it in a way where you're teaching and educating, right? So rather than saying, here's Lindsay, she lost 30 pounds, click here to buy, say, here's Lindsay, she lost 30 pounds, here's what she did, here's her story, and then just have it as content, right? And that's going to convert way better long term and be way better for your brand. So middle of funnel ad strategy, that kind of follows the point previous. A lot of us are great at running ads to buyers when they're so if someone buys low ticket, we'd run an ad to them to buy a higher ticket, right? Or to jump on a consultation. But a lot of us aren't great at actually doing content to those middle of funnel people. So new creatives, adding in case studies, running testimonial ads, monitoring the frequency of the ad, which means how many times it's seen. Building a Facebook group for them all to engage in. One of the best things I ever did for my old fitness business was I had a Facebook group with 60,000 members, and this was 4 or 5 years ago, and to this day it still runs. I don't run it at all, I don't look at it. I don't think I've looked in that group for a year, but I have one guy that still monitors it part-time and everyone still engages, and it's built that community. And we would do launches, and probably 20 to 30% of our launch revenue would all come from the group, and it would all be net profit, right? Because there'd be no ad spend to that group. I mean, Facebook loves groups. They had a Super Bowl ad, right, just now on groups. That's how important Facebook groups and communities are to Facebook. They spent all that money, and the one thing they wanted to promote this year was groups. And yeah, just in general, running these middle of funnel ad strategies keeps those leads or those sales warm for the year, because probably in half a year or a year, you'll run a big offer, a big affiliate, and you'll hope they will buy. But because you didn't do any of this interim stuff, now your conversions tank, and that 100,000 buyers list that you had a year ago is kind of worthless now, or it's down to 20,000, right? So it's just investing in that list, keeping it healthy. Like I said, tech department, you need tech guys, you need funnels, you need websites that can load under 3 seconds. You need them to understand how to build order bumps. You need them to understand what data is and where the data is important. Like if you guys all went to your tech teams now, your tech agencies, and you said, what's my AOV, what's my LTV, where are all the pixels placed, how much is my upsell revenue, how much is my upsell take rate, how much is my AOV, my order bump revenue, like whose tech team could answer that? Anyone's tech team? Like my guys could, they'd have to go check all the data, but it's took me like 2 years to build a tech team that could actually go, understand all that terminology, build around to optimize it, and then actually have the data processes in place for me and my clients to go do that, okay? And that's like, we're a big agency, and I value this so much that we have a full-time like data scientist that runs all our data, and our tech team like know how crucial data is. Our media buyers check the back-end data when they're running the ads. So we have like 3 levels of protection, and then the project marketing managers also check the data. So we actually have like 4 levels of protection just to make sure the data is as perfect as it can be. Upsell flows, so a lot of tech guys don't even know what an upsell is. Whose tech person understands what an upsell is and could tell me what it was? Okay, so most of you not. So that's like super key. You've got to educate them on what upsells are, what order bumps are, what exit pop-ups are, where the pixel needs to go on every page. So understanding that's really key, and having them know how to build it out in a way that converts, because there's a lot of upsell plugins out there, but there's only 3 or 4 we ever use because half of them don't really work. And your tech guy will go, you know, if you don't understand it maybe at the level I do, your tech guy will go, yeah, I got an upsell installed, it's great, right? And we've had that, and then we take over a client and we're like, that upsell's terrible, your take rate's 10% because it's not even loading for half the people, and then the copy's weak and the call to action's weak, right? So again, there's context of like having an upsell and then having an upsell that converts and makes you money is 2 very different things. Automations and correct tagging. So again, having a tech team or your integrator can build out the email automations, but if they don't get from a bird's eye view how those integrations all work together and how they connect and how they need to be segmented and how they need to be tagged, then again, it's almost pointless to a point, right? Because and we've found this a lot. Like we've gone into client stuff, and even in the early days of my business with tech team, I would have them set up a split test, right? And they'd say split test is live. I'd come look at it a week later, and the data wasn't capturing correctly. And he was like, yeah, but it's split test. It's like running to 2 different pages. It's live. I'm like, well, sure, but now I can't see the data of those 2 pages. So that's what I wanted from a split test, right? And to a tech guy, they think they've done their job. But to a marketer or a data guy, the whole point of a split test was the data. So the point that I don't have the data means that it was not live for me, okay? And that's like discrepancies there, right? So having them understand all of that's key. Mobile optimization. So we actually build our landing pages and sales pages in mobile, and then we convert them to desktop now, okay? And like that, I think we're one of the first agencies probably doing that. Like most people build in desktop and convert to mobile, and we did for the longest time. But because we're running so much cold traffic and 90% of sales are mobile, we just changed, and actually our copywriters write in a mobile screen, okay? So they still write on desktop, but they have like a little thin column to write in, so it's like mobile. Because even the headlines and how the images are placed and the length of the copy is very different from desktop to mobile. And then plugins. So I'm going to do a talk a little later on different like plugins and conversion rate optimization tricks. And again, like some of those tricks of like my old fitness business, some of those things I'll share made $100,000 to $200,000 in a year just from adding these plugins. And if your tech team don't understand how to operate those, and you don't understand what they are and how they should work, you could be a $4 million business leaving $1 million on the table just because you don't have all these kind of fancy bells and whistle plugins and software and SaaS running for your business. And like I said, a lot of clients, a lot of the time the design and video team's holding them back. So questions I ask, ask yourself, ask your clients, ask your agency, is are you doing new videos and ads weekly for your clients? Like we try and do 2 videos a month, so every 2 weeks, and we do new ads every week. We test about 20 ads a week on average for our clients, so that's 80 a month. which is a lot of testing for an agency to do. I don't know many agencies that do that, and I don't know many people with in-house teams that do that, like when I check accounts. Again, design, like, you know, my head of design has been with me 5 years, and I've spent 5 years training him on how to make designs that convert. And my copywriters and me still review every single design that comes out of our business before it gets coded, and then we check it after it's been coded, before it goes live, to make sure it's optimized for sales, right? And that's with a team that's been with me 5 years, and we still check, and we still have comments on every single design and every single tech build. And that's 5 years of training them, right? And these are super smart guys. They're just never going to get it to the level that I would get it, right? Because if they did, they would be me. New videos, so trying to, you know, one of the best hires we made as an agency as we grew was an in-house video team. So we now have full-time video editors that are doing content for clients that we can run, and then obviously sales ads for videos. And like I said, I probably have, I would say 10, 15, maybe 20% of my clients, the overarching side of success on ads for those 10 to 20% of clients is the video ads that we created. And if we didn't have a video team making those ads, some of those clients wouldn't be getting results right now with us to the level they get, okay? So again, you could have everything else dialed in, but your weakness maybe is you have a Facebook agency, or your agency is running ads for the clients, and it's just like a load of data guys running the ads that are really good at ads, but they're not creative. So they're not making videos, they're not writing good copy, creating good stories, creating good hooks, using like good imagery, right? And maybe that's the whole bottleneck of your agency, or a whole bottleneck of your business if you're trying to scale. And then again, understanding the differences for ad platforms. So even within Facebook now, there's different ways the ads should look, right? Some are cropped to square, long ways. And then obviously if you're running Google and third-party platforms, understanding how the designs need to be different, understanding how upsell flows and advertorials need to be designed versus a sales page. Because an advertorial is very different to a sales page, but it's also very different to a blog, okay? And most marketers probably can't even tell me how an advertorial is way different to a blog and show me how they should look, let alone most graphic designers or tech build-out guys, right? So again, you could run an advertorial, you could pay a copywriter $2,000 for that advertorial, build it, run 20 grand in traffic, and then fire your media buyer because it wasn't converting, when maybe the advertorial was just built wrong and now it doesn't function how you want it to function. And then design for mobile and tablet first. I think even if you're doing desktop design and copy first, it's fine, but every page should be reviewed on a mobile platform, okay? And not just on a mobile like desktop screen or an app on desktop that converts to mobile, because we use all of those and they never work 100% still. So they should literally be tested on physical mobile devices before sent live. So checkout and upsells. So optimizing your checkout page is like what for e-com, info product guys. Really for checkout pages, it's one of the biggest needle movers for us in an agency if everything else is kind of looking good. If they don't have an optimized checkout page, they're running tons of traffic, optimizing that. You know, the average abandonment rate is like 90% on unoptimized checkout pages to cold traffic. So getting that down from 90 to 80% doubles a business alone, right? Because you're losing, you know, you're halving how many people you lose, so you're doubling conversions. Most of the time, you know, in life and marketing in general, there's not always like a right and a wrong, but most of the time, one-page checkouts work for us best, especially for e-com info product. You want to split test an exit pop a long time. You know, for years, exit pops work. You would get really good cart abandonment rates, whereas now they still work really well for most of our clients. We've seen on a couple of them that it can hurt a little now because, again, everyone knows what an exit pop is. So just test that. For e-com, lower ticket, in my opinion, upsells, if they're really done well, should almost double the AOV on the front end, right? So if you sell a $100 product, you should have enough upsells and order bumps to now get a $200 AOV. And yeah, to do that, most of our e-com or info products will have one order bump and then 2 to 4 upsells. And our checkout pages are all custom built to help optimize for conversion. So we custom build them, and we have a combination of urgency, social proof, guarantees, and then like re-illustrating the offer and the benefits. So again, a custom checkout page is really important, and I'll show you some of those later. And then finally, strong media buyer. So like I said, you really need a media buyer, or if not the media team, you need someone like a VP of marketing or conversion optimization guy to be looking at the big picture, not the ads. The problem I found, so the reason I created my agency where we do everything was, as a business owner before my agency, I wanted someone or a firm where they would look at the big picture, right? Not just look at the ads or the copy or the tech. I wanted someone that would do everything. I realized that didn't really exist, so I built an agency for it. But even if you don't have an agency like mine, if you have an in-house team, you guys need to look at the big picture and look at all the data points each week or month and look at how to optimize it from a big picture. Because most of the time, even within your own agencies, we had to create a lot of systems to stop this, but even with your own agencies, you probably go and work with the different departments and get reports, right? And the media team will tell you this, the data team will tell you this, the graphics team will tell you this, copy team will tell you something. So without looking at how it all connects, again, it can just be one page that's built wrong. It can be the media buyer not using good creatives. It can just be one element that throws it all off. And if you don't have someone that kind of pieces all those departments together, your agency won't be able to optimize client results, or your in-house team won't be able to optimize your results, right? And yeah, trying to find a media buyer that understands creatives, understands copy, understands sales psychology and hooks and offers, everything like that is so vital. And again, you'll struggle to find a good media buyer that's spent millions that also understands that, okay? And if you do find them, they're very rare, and they're going to probably want 200 grand a year or % to work with you. So test a lot. For us, within the first month or two of having a client, we'll probably test over 100 ads, okay? So a mixture of images, headlines, hooks, overall hooks, copy, and then video, okay? And if you, as an agency, aren't testing that much for your client, I would encourage you to test more. If you have an in-house team and you're not testing that much, then you need to test more. When you're trying to hire a media buyer, we don't even engage and have conversations with them unless they've spent more than $1 million themselves. Any less, I just don't think, if you're trying to do serious figures, unless you're going to train them up in-house for a long time, I just don't think they have the experience needed. You really want people that have had a diverse range of experience, right? They understand different campaign setups. They understand low ticket versus high ticket. They understand different niches. So trying to have someone that understands all the campaign structure, different ways to scale, because every client's different, especially for you agency owners in here. If you hire a guy that's ran real estate ads and spent $5 million, that's great. But if you have an agency that does everything, he isn't going to be very good in the other stuff, I promise. Because we've trialed those guys, and they're like rock stars in their little space. But when I say, okay, let's go run this low ticket, and let's go run this webinar and this live event, they don't have a clue what to do. So always finding media buyers that either fit your niche, or if you're an agency, maybe a little more broad if you have broad clients, right? If you only had real estate clients, then that guy would be a perfect fit. And then just with your clients, if you're an agency, try to have set realistic expectations, because Facebook ads isn't as pretty as everyone thinks. It's not as easy as everyone thinks. So try and set expectations with your clients. Try and educate them on the full data scope and how each section works, because they'll complain as soon as CPA isn't right, or whatever metric they're looking at. But if the rest of the funnel's a mess, then it's not always your fault, right? Or if you need them to go make some videos for you and they won't do that, then it's like a stalemate. So if you're an agency, the biggest thing I've learned running an agency and building it to 30, 40 staff with a lot of big clients is trying to set better expectations, because a lot of them have very bad expectations on how whether agencies or just an in-house team. A lot of business owners that haven't gone through this like we have, they don't get how this works, right? And if, like anything in the internet, they see all the like success stories, but they don't see the other 95% that are failing to scale ads, right? So any questions on anything I covered here? Yeah, where's the mic?
I've got a couple. Is that all right?
Yep.
Cool. The first thing you said, well, not the first thing you said, the last thing you said, the first question I have is better expectations. What's the best way to deliver the set expectation?
So we just implemented a new thing that's been a game changer for our agency. Within the first week or two of them hiring us, for new clients now, we sit them down and do a 30-minute call, and I wrote all my expectations out. So if you want to be a good client, here's the 20 things to understand, and if we want to serve you best, tell us about what failed with in-house teams or agencies before working with us, and just have a 30-minute call and record it and say this is recorded. So in 2 months when you're moaning about me because of this, I'm going to send you this recording.
Excellent. Okay. And then the other thing is you said that most advertorials are not set up the right way, and that could be the problem, not necessarily.
Yeah.
What's the best way to set up an advertorial?
So that's like a very niche thing, right? But if you were running like advertorial to landing page and that's where most of your traffic was going and that was built wrong, then that definitely could mess everything up. I'm going through like showing examples later, so it's going to be easier to see them.
Got it. Okay. And you said one of the challenges is when you need a client to give you the content, sometimes your creative team creates the content for them, but sometimes you're like, listen, guys, we need these videos, and if they can't get that back to you, then what do you do at that point? If you're, like what you said, if you're at a stalemate, then what do? You're just...
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a mix. Like, Kevin's one of my project managers, so you guys that run agencies just like pick his brains because he deals with the BS every day.
Okay.
So it's a combination of like me telling him like go figure it out, just get it off the client, tell them we won't make any money without them, and then eventually I'll step in and I'll text the client like, hey, Kevin's been asking for this, I really need this.
Okay.
And then sometimes we'll just say, look, well, if you won't give us it, we'll do the best we can do here, but we really need that. But again, it's like, the biggest thing I've learned, again, with an agency is if expectations aren't there, you'll never be successful because all these little hiccups will come up for the next 5 months you work with them. Whereas if you set them better, if that's a big barrier for you, you will say, hey, we require, and even write it in their contract. We write in their contract, this is what we need from you, and then do an expectations call, tell them we need this many creatives every month on average, and we need them within a week. If not, we can't be responsible for any success in this setup.
Okay.
And then that'll just change the way everything operates.
And last question, when you ask them to do the video content, so they would post that on their page, and then they would boost it themselves?
No, we tend to boost it.
Okay, and then what audience do you tend to boost it for? The same audience that you intend to run the traffic to?
Yeah, and warm audiences too.
And warm audience
Yep.
too. Okay,
Yep.
great. Thank you.
Cool. Any other questions so far? Cool. All right, so we'll go into one more slide and then we'll take a break. You might have to help me with the where all the slides are. Oh, okay. Someone else is helping. It's magic. It's fine. Someone else is doing it. So another kind of 30 minutes, and then we'll take a 20-minute, 15-minute break. And those breaks, you can kind of, feel free. My team are at the back. I'm here for questions. And then a couple more sessions and lunch.